I go get the drinks and I walk to the table. And guess who has let her sit next to her? I can't even get the words out.
Tucker
She
Carlson.
doesn't she doesn't even recognize him. Guess what? It's
The sizzling sausage. Studs on cement. Sport in the crisp wintry air. When the drawbridge goes up, see the absolute state of it. You're with Pez and Higgos. It's the circus.
Will the Melbourne Storm ever win again? How will Carlton financially recover from a 70k fine? The Panthers are on top. Sydney Sweeney's at the SCG. There's limb-saving surgery and whiteboard drama over strengths and weaknesses. Arsenal scare all internet users as a historic Premier League Champions League double is on offer. Hearts are saving the sanctity of the sport in the betting named Scottish League. Australia are amazing at curling, and juiced-up roid heads take on the strip in the enhanced games. ABC's Catherine Murphy is on the show for some Irish sensibility as we get into splitting the G, the Coachella effect of the F1 and the Oz Open, and if we like Rory McIlroy or not. There's also, boys, actually, what's getting you hot? Liv is dead. Somebody think of the oil barons. And welcome to the show, a man that has the best interests and the hearts and minds of all small businesses in Australia, while still being a red-blooded bloke that likes to sink schooners on the foreshore of the weekend's drama amidst a sea of mid-circus acts. Sam Perry, how the bloody hell are you?
Thanks, you guys. Wow, big show ahead. I want to shout out, just to begin with here, on top of all the professional elite sport that you've referenced there, local footy, because I took my boys to some local footy on Saturday, and I got to tell you, in this age of AI and social media and, you know, big tech owning 40% of the S&P, it was very rootsy just to get back to suburban football where you are assaulted in the senses with, you know, Denkorub, or Tiger Balm or liniment, you know, the aromas therein. Grass, freshly cut, if you will, an unfair advantage given by the wind, men drinking lager out of cans, and kids forming little gangs and fighting. That was my experience on a Saturday afternoon around my local area, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a nice departure from the kind of sanitized, sterile, professional representation of sport that we receive all the time.
I get it.
Right?
Mate. I like nothing more than the dance that I offer in my mind's eye when I think about players getting $60,000 a season handed over in dodgy sports bags from club presidents in a pokies room.
Yeah. 60K, fuck.
Yeah.
I like looking at the field and saying to one of the other dads who knows footy and probably played country footy or some shit, and they're keen to tell you that they did, and you don't really invite the conversation. But like, anyone here playing the AFL?
Yeah.
You know, did he looks big? No, he didn't. No, they're all injured this week. That kind of thing. And like, you know, seeing if the, you know, blokes popping in goals from 50 post high because of this unbelievable wind,
Right.
this northerly.
Yeah.
And, you know, going, well, is 8 goals enough given the other team have got the win next quarter, that kind of thing. And then your kid's like going, can I have a Powerade, Dad? And you're like, I'll walk with you soon. We'll go with them. And then the other kids are listening, and it's like, well, who are the kids getting them at the same time?
Yeah.
Is there going to be inequality? And then other dads don't care, so they give their kid their actual just credit card, and the kid walks with the credit card tucked under their chin because they're holding a hot dog and a credit card, you know? Like that's Saturday afternoon.
And you pull out one Bitcoin from your pocket that you've mined on Friday evening.
No, I gave a dressing down to my 5-year-old who decided to, not a dressing down to my 5-year-old who decided to go near the road to use the bubbler, and I couldn't see him for a second, and I was like, you don't ever go out of my sight here at this ground. So,
Mate,
you know, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, mate. I love the cadence of an old man that obviously used to play because the knees are shot.
Yeah.
You know, you walk around and you're seeing some unbelievable calves knocking about, you know, shorts when it's 7 degrees and coming in sideways. But a bloke played 70 games VFL and his knees are fucked.
Yep.
I'm looking at that. You know?
Yeah, like anyone getting a beer, I'll call and draft, whatever. And then, you have a draft. And then, you know, you ask someone how work is, and they're on the the site in the morning and they're tired. You know, they're tired. And he doesn't want to talk to another guy because they had a problem at the trivia night last year, and you know, like, and then that guy, his kid goes to a private school now, and that's you know, I mean, they're the. And the other kids, and then there's rival gangs, you know, and one of the kids, it's the son of an AFL player, and the dad's kind of proud that there is a bit of a, you know, that's what I'm talking about. And you want your kids to stay out of it, but
the taste of a domestic lager from a tin on a Saturday afternoon, whether you've played sport or you're watching sport or you're in and around sport or you're an alcoholic, they are one of the greatest beers of your life.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Yeah. Not what I'd choose for a beer, right?
No.
Which... think what you like of that, but because of the narrowness of choice, you are forced into it, and it tastes fucking great, and you end up hating yourself for choosing anything else.
Yeah, I can't get a Penfolds here. Okay, I will have a VB from a tin.
Yeah, any baby Grange at least. I don't know. What I'm
Can you
talking
please
about
decanter this?
So shout out to local footy to begin with before we get into the show proper.
Great.
Where do you want to get? NRL? Is that where we want to start?
Yeah. Are we hearing from anyone?
Oh, fuck the punters this week. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, play it out, Charlie.
Scoring 6 tries is probably not enough to win you a game of rugby league these days. My team, shit. The footy, shit. It's fucking cold. When's the fucking cricket start?
Watching the NRL and seeing how many forward passes and offsides there are that just aren't called. It's almost like the refs and the bunker don't rule them. Why can't we have like VAR like fucking football does?
I feel like Brisbane were too generous towards Ben Mackay and that whiteboard thing. They could have just not put him on there. Probably more represents what he does.
Call me David fucking King. Coming. I love coming.
Malcolm Rosath. Yeah, that's it.
It was a draw. Damn, Pendles would have been handy.
Watching Mikel Arteta's football could cure insomnia. Holy shit.
I just got this really odd email from Allianz Stadium with details about Sydney FC game coming up this weekend. A semi-final, apparently. Is that still going, or is it am I victim to some sort of phishing scam?
Yeah, okay, so what the fuck is up with the a correlation between Achilles tears and the number 0 in the NBA? Dante DiVincenzo now? Fuck me. LeBron James.
What's getting me hot is that the Formula One is back, which is good because the missus likes that. So I can send her Instagram reels to which she will respond, I've seen that, or oh, ha ha. If I'm lucky, sometimes I'll get a third ha. So, yeah, it's getting me real hot. Vroom, vroom.
Travis Bazzano makes his Major League Baseball debut for the Cleveland Guardians. Part Trav Ball, part Baz Ball, all Hornsby.
What's getting me hot, boys, is our man Plappy finishing top 5 in the Tour of Romandie last week.
Okay.
Of course, losing to Tadej Pogacar. Any danger of you coach saying that right for once?
What's getting me hot is Steve Smith versus Marnus Labuschagne in PSL. Test cricketers trying to prove their way into T20. That's what's getting me hot. Let's bring it on. Ashes dominance. Yay.
Sorry. That was the wrong show. That was a wrong spec pipe.
We'll start with rugby league. Pez, do you want to tell us what's going on between, Gal and JB?
Yeah, people might have seen on 100% footy, Channel 9's flagship midweek.
100%.
It's just 100% footy.
No fluff.
The regular panel there, just about, which involves, Gus, James Bracey, Paul Gallen, a couple others switching in and out or on all the time. I don't watch it. Just thinking about boys, actually.
I'm more of a 98% footy kind of guy. I like 2% fluff.
People would have seen a clipped up argument between host James Bracey, the ordinarily unflappable, elegant, wonderful, and articulate James Bracey, with Paul Gallen. And it concerned an argument that has kind of emerged in the press following Jerome Luai's signing with PNG Chiefs that the Bears are doing 3/5 of fuck all to promote themselves, etc. And Gallen was just making this point. And what audiences have never really seen before is James Bracey fucking line somebody up and have a massive crack at him, and he did. Now, I'm biased as a Bears fan. They went back and forth and they both made decent enough points, but people were enjoying Bracey's emotion within that. And I just want to say, a lot of people underestimate the emotion of people who support the North Sydney Bears. You know, like whether or not Gallen has a point, I happen to think that he has half a point. North Sydney Bears fans are very, very hurt. And even James Bracey, unflappable and professional, was triggered and he fucking gave him a big old roasting and it was great.
Bracey went whack.
Bracey went whack and it was great to see. Bears people are hurt and there's a lot of arrogance. There's arrogance around that part of North Sydney, Sydney, but it's not really arrogance from him. They've got emotion to express, and he did make the point, Bracey, that like it's hard for the Bears to promote players that are going to play for them, given they already play for other teams. Now that didn't really seem to stop PNG with Jerome Luai, but nevertheless, he was just saying there's a few restrictions on the Bears here. I do think on the Bears PNG thing, like I do think it's right. I'm not sure I'm not sure it's best in class administration at the Bears right now, but it's very much a beggars can't be choosers situation. Like, I'm not going to wait 27 years for my uncle to get out of prison, and be like, I hope he's fucking looks maxing, And it's, get the boys on the park, give us some good players, one or two, guys who are knocking around the representative level, get us competitive in a couple of games, and I'm just happy to be feeling something.
I think this is one of the great things about seeing someone have multiple jobs, wear multiple hats in the media and on boards. We see James Bracey, hosting the show excellently, does great work for Nine, of course, and also on the board for the Bears. Now, like, how often do you get to see, a host, an anchor, fucking show some spine, to a guy that throws punches in the ring, Well,
it's at the point with rugby league and AFL media where I begin to question people who don't have a conflict of interest.
Exactly.
They are rarer than hen's teeth.
Yeah. A former Blues captain says, like, these blokes are doing nothing. Bracey says, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
What about this? What about the signings?
What are we meant to do?
Yeah. How do you promote yourself without being able to promote yourself? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, well, I back James Bracey, and just don't underestimate the feeling of Bears fans generally.
And Percy's. The pub opposite North Sydney Oval.
I did note just in relation to this that heartwarming article in response to the Luai, promotion. Michael Chamis doing the Lord's work, getting Hello Sport and the Levels boys up there as well. It's a charm offensive for PNG. The Bears responded with an article about Scott Sorensen, Penrith stalwart who's heading over to Perth for family. He's got some family connections over there. Hardworking, solid first grade player, and that his son was going to be the ball boy. And it just brought back memories for me, thinking that has to be the greatest job for a child who supports a team possible. To be invited to be ball boy for that team. Like my parents wrote several letters, or they alleged to North Sydney Rugby League football club, district football club when I was a boy. And then I went to a rugby union camp a few years later and I met the actual ball boy. He was just the club doctor's son. So I think his dad was just taking him to work. So he gave him a job. But the idea, like for me back then, being a ball boy, having the Bears tracksuit and collecting kicks at goal from Daryl Halligan and Jason Taylor, take me now. I've seen, you know what I mean?
Running out of tea. Running out a bucket of sand.
Just hearing it all, He actually got in trouble once, that kid, because Mark Soden demanded the ball from him after a quick kick into the touch, and he passed it to him, and they got a quick tap and scored the Bears, whereas he was meant to put it on the sideline, and he got in a bit of trouble. But the Bears backed him.
See, I think I would panic in that situation. Too much going on, too many people, sights and sounds. All of a sudden, this game is here for me. All the cameras, they need to be on me.
Can you imagine that though? Like, can you imagine just being the ball boy? It's Shangri-La, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you see this in Premier League games, for instance, in the football. Like the coaches often direct them to hand the ball over immediately or slow it down or sleep on the ball.
Didn't Mourinho go up and pat a kid on the head who helped them score a goal?
I think Hazard did it for Chelsea once. He kicked a ball boy at Swansea from memory.
I want the ball boy who knows to throw 2 balls onto the field when they're actually just
Slow
trying
it down.
Yeah.
Dark arts.
I want dark arts
Dark
ball
arts.
boys.
Yeah.
They're the kind of ball boys I'm looking for. What else is happening in rugby league?
Now, the Storm may lose forever.
Yes.
7 on the trot. First time that's ever happened in Melbourne Storm history. Now, questions, Pezza. What to do with Cam Munster? Out of form in recent times. Out of luck. Origin coming up around the corner a few weeks' time at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And people are asking the question, well, how can we pick a guy in the halves if they ain't winning shit? And to that I say, well, all the best to you. Somehow he'll figure it out to come Origin time. Somehow he figured it out. It's fine.
Yeah. Talk about fucking goldfish brain. I mean, is this, Cam Munster can't play anymore. Maybe they should drop him from the side. And then Queensland names him captain and he's fucking player of the series. They're 3-0. You know what I mean? We just see this happen all the time.
Right.
Oh, Queensland dreadfully out of form. New South Wales looking very, very good this year. Yep.
Cherry Evans could play on the wing and he'd be player of the series somehow.
Hey, they brought Alan Langer back from fucking Warrington at age 45, or thereabouts. And although I did see a Fox Sports headline, Fox Sports News headline today. Is it time to talk Origin? The headline was 12 changes, spine carnage as $1.2 million star axed in mass Origin overhaul. Predicted New South Wales team. Did you see Television's back?
No.
Latrell's broken his media ban.
Oh, sorry, I did say that.
And he said, "Is this Television?
Bunnies till I die."
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the first questions is like, "Oh, what about the bag stuff?" And he's just like, "Yeah, no comment."
Don't worry about that. Yeah. Letting over the pool table there.
Anyway, play some good golf with the boys. Hello Sport as well.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
I like Latrell.
There was a little whisper of him going to PNG, and he's like, "Nah, Redfern, baby."
Yeah, I like it.
You see during the game the Broncos Roosters. So Dean Mariner required limb-saving surgery. He was getting his thigh strapped around 15 minutes into that game. Then by the end of the game, it was reported that he wouldn't be retaking the field. So then he was in the hotel. He was in a bit of discomfort. Then at 1:30 a.m., his leg's like blowing up and he's in agony. And the club called paramedics. They sorted that from there. But he said limb-saving surgery. Gone are the days where a bloke would do an ACL and that would be career over, And then obviously all the rest of us as amateurs could hide behind that excuse of being like, nah, I just did my knee when I was 17. I could have made it. Now, these days, technology is such that, an ACL doesn't end careers. A broken leg doesn't end careers, except if you're in horse racing, I suppose that's a separate thing entirely. But yeah, this is it's scary, I suppose. Rugby league, like the guys, they're more wiry. They're not as big as they were sort of 15, 20 years ago. But like the brutality of the sport, can still cause, like Dean Mariner to lose a leg had he not sought treatment, which would seem unlikely given he was in agony, but still, you take my point.
Yeah, I always figured that they had to be fitter and they're a little slimmer now than they used to be because they're trying to stop people having ongoing CTE. But now it's gone the other way and you're going to lose a leg.
Yeah.
Be too fit.
Nice to see the Panthers on top, Pezza. I think everyone's excited by that. They just got past my Manly boys on the weekend, who really should have won that game. But still right behind Fosball. Conversations now about Kieran Foran. Does he get the job? We're seeing this in multiple sports. If an interim coach does too well, is this a blessing? Is this a curse in disguise? Should we actually get someone in who's sort of battle hardened with seasons? Or just get a guy who's winning at the moment and the players seem to like playing underneath him.
So Kieran Foran, Michael Carrick issue, right? With Manchester United.
Issue,
so the logic is that Foran's performing a job that's very different to the job that a head coach would do. So he's presided over what, 4 victories, 4 out of 5?
4 out of 5, yeah.
Yeah, right. But it's like, see, this is different to what the actual coach is going to be doing.
Yeah.
I see this with Michael Carrick as well. A friend of the show, Barney Ronay, in the cricket has said of Carrick, like, look, it's a trap to hire Michael Carrick because the other jobs that have to be done when he's finished is different to what he's doing now.
Yeah.
To which I say, I think the media lays traps like this. Who's laying the trap? I would imagine if Foran has found a way to get a tune out of the team, you continue to allow him to coach the team, and he can learn about recruitment and all those other things. And play himself if he wants to.
And then lose a couple of games to say not ready. Got to get someone.
And it was a mistake. They should have got someone with more experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Mal Meningo.
League?
Tigers lost 52-10. I just want to shout out the the kid who was crying.
Oh, yeah.
He was 5 and he's crying. His mum's cacking herself. But it was quite nice. But tell you what, brought back a lot of memories.
Can't win the comp. Conceded 50. There goes that.
Yeah. Well, they conceded 50 in 2005. They won that comp. So, nevertheless, who gives a fuck about that? That's just a fact. But yeah, I still remember. Sorry to talk about the Bears again, but they lost to Newcastle in 1994, 24-22, and I was accustomed to them winning. And I burst into tears. And my dad, in front of all his brothers, said, we used to cry when the Bears won a game. Told him to fuck off. I said, fuck off, Dad. Then I hit him. And then he said he'd embarrass it. No, that last bit didn't happen.
Then I got a Powerade. Anyway, now the AFL's in shambles once again, Pezza. A photo was leaked of the Brisbane Lions whiteboard highlighting Essendon players' strengths and weaknesses. Chris Fagan has said it was illegal. Under strengths for Jackson Pryor was his girlfriend. Now, Chris Fagan said this: I'm not going to comment on what was written on that whiteboard. From our perspective, it's private information. Somebody illegally took photos of information that was on the whiteboard and then decided to make a hero of themselves and put it out in the public.
It's illegal.
In the public domain, yep. I reckon it's a little unfair when it's your workplace and it's what you do every day and it's information that we keep internal. We've been doing it for 9 years. We've been writing the strengths and vulnerabilities of opposition players on a whiteboard. I'm not going to comment on isolated things that were written on it. I can promise you, though, that nothing was written up there that had anything sinister or degrading in mind at all. That's where I'll stay with that. Now, I love the oscillation between calling, the place that you work a footy club. Like everything we do here, it's a great footy club, and then also just calling it a workplace endlessly, like it's an office, it's, these are professional athletes and they clock into work like an ESPN ad in the 1990s, that's what we imagine. Mascots clocking in and having genial conversations in the break room, fucking up a coffee jug, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's also lighthearted and it's a footy club, I don't think you can have it both ways. So I'm sick of seeing, a footy club being referred to as a workplace, even though I understand that by literal definition, I suppose that it is. Anyway, that's not the point.
I mean, sorry, is there a point?
No.
I don't know what it is. I just know that's not it. I mean, there's no problems writing down strengths and weaknesses of players, right? This is one of those things of like, oh, you've opened the doors to how we talk about things and people are having a freak out because it's not how they imagine or want people to talk about things in footy clubs, but like saying what strengths and weaknesses are is just very, it's actually, it'd be negligible not to do that, right? Yeah. And writing things down, well, that's been going on for probably 6,000 to 10,000 years, maybe 40 to 60,000 years, things get written down for others to see. So, from
hieroglyphics to the lines.
Our own, Indigenous brothers and sisters, they've been writing stuff down for a long time.
Ages.
Ages. And so I don't think that's a problem necessarily.
No.
It's just probably when you like open up your doors to like Auskick parents because you're trying to ingratiate them in the club and then you're like, oh, one of them supports the Bombers and does this.
Yeah.
That's probably a gap. You can probably tighten things up there around like, let's probably not leave things on the board when the dad's going to walk in and take a photo and put it on social media. So that's a gap.
Yeah.
That's fine. The whole, they've had a joke about their old teammate's girlfriend. They've done that. They thought it was private. It's not private. Comedy is context.
Yeah.
The context has changed. In privacy, the context was that was funny, and the context changes, and that was the gap. And I did like Jay Clark, the journo, tweeting, "Well done, Hugh McCluggage. Best line yet on the whiteboard saga." And Hugh said this: "I've spoken to Priz." So obviously, Jackson Pryor. "I've spoken to Priz. If we had our time again, we wouldn't have involved his partner. It's as simple as that." Best line yet. So,
hey, we saw this in the.
I mean, I don't know about Chris Fagan calling out illegality and fucking
it's illegal.
Just getting this guy arrested and putting him before the courts.
This guy's illegal. You've highlighted that someone's weak on their right foot. That's illegal. Now,
I'll tell you what though. If this guy wanted to take, like, if he was charged and he wanted to actually take this on, in court. I wonder who'd back his court costs, the guy who took the photo, because I wonder if the Swans might back that, given they're trying to, Brisbane really is what stands in the way of them. And grand final day and beyond. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just like the culture of the Lions Club at the moment. Just I like everything that's going
it's
on
all
with
looking
partners
good.
and
Yeah.
sex and all that kind of stuff.
Well, is it just the I guess the blessings of success, This goes back to ancient Rome, this kind of
It
stuff.
does. It does
You
go
just
back
get
to
a little
ancient
bit of
Rome.
fat around the edges,
Yeah. And they invented the sewer.
Just want to remark upon the Hawks Pies draw, if that's
Okay,
possible.
yeah.
We complain about the creep of media being bigger than the players. All right, we complain about this.
Yes, we do,
But
yeah.
I've got some numbers for you. It's from 7AFL on Twitter.
Okay.
So they've got footage of the climax moment, where the draw is gained by Hawthorn. I remember kicked it. Darcy Moore, free kick, slots it through. It's a draw. Kissing your sister stuff. It's a very strange line for what a draw is. But
is she hot?
Just like kissing your sister. You get a kiss, but it's your sister. Footage of the climax moment in and of itself, just see, it's the game of Australian rules football that you can see. 7 comments, 10 retweets, 82 likes.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Next item.
Yeah.
Footage plus commentators in shot commentating it.
Yeah.
Right? Standing up, Haim, button undone,
Yeah.
BT. 13 comments, 20 retweets, 236 likes.
Yeah.
So you add the commentators in, you get more engagement. Bonus. Now, this is against the backdrop of Scott Pendlebury being rested, potentially to break the game's record at the MCG, gold numbers,
That's an
etc.
allegation. It's an
So he didn't play
allegation.
in this game
That's
against
illegal.
Hawthorn.
Illegal what you just said.
Yep. So another item, 7AFL.
Yeah.
No footage, but just commentators, and it's there is some footage post game. Kane Corn saying Pendles would have been handy.
Yeah.
29 comments, 14 retweets, 434 likes.
Yeah.
So of the three, commentators beats the game. Kane Corns beats commentators in game.
Yeah.
I mean, the commentators are bigger than the game.
What social? What works
Commentators
on
are the
social?
game.
People love seeing people react to the thing.
Yeah.
They don't like the thing as much as they like their own reaction reflected upon themselves to the thing.
The thing exists for the reaction, not the other way around.
No.
So for a long time, players thought the people like fucking podcasters and journalists were parasites on the good ship sport. I am the sport,
I'm the sport.
and you're just parasites trying to intrude on my life. Well, actually, you're intruding on my life. Give me your fucking content so that I can talk about it, because that's what people want.
Yeah.
They want the reaction to the thing. I don't want to watch the thing. I'm scrolling. I'm busy getting reactions.
Picture of you doing the thing, green screen, me on top, hand over face. Reaction.
Exactly.
Money.
The sport is two things: what happens on the field and all the talk that happens afterwards. Right? All the talk that happens afterwards is more important than the sport.
Totally.
What happens on the field is that's a muse. That's grist for the mill.
Right.
The real thing happens once the game is over. When we get into the sheds, BT, podcasts, green screen, hand on face, whatever you name it.
Yep.
That's the game now. Move over, players. Get into the gym. Do your dumb little shit and your little skills.
Sportsbet have said it will stop employing current sports officials and administrators, including AFL umpire Nick Foot, following feedback. And I, for one, thank the moral arbiters of this society, betting companies, to draw a clear and distinct line between right and wrong. The gambling company has said, we will no longer be working with this individual. It's wrong. It's wrong that we are a betting company and he is an umpire. We will be the ones to say no more.
I awoke to the news, I think broken by Tom Morris, at least that's where I read it, which said Sportsbet has parted ways with Nick Foot. And I thought, well done, Sportsbet.
Well done, Sportsbet.
Thank you for enforcing the standards that punters or people have asked for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sportsbet. I also saw that Kane Corns decided to keep his Sportsbet job than be an All-Australian selector. And he's entitled to do that.
He is.
He's entitled to do
He's
that.
got mouths to feed. Sydney Sweeney was at the SCG for D Swans. Now, isn't this just titillating where we get to see our glorious Bloods, our Sydney Swans, have a little wink and a nod to say, who's trying to get Sydney Sweeney's phone number? Have you seen Euphoria? Have you seen the OnlyFans stuff? You know what I'm saying? This is also, Queen Mary of Denmark, Olympics, Sydney pub, royalty, getting together. Slip in. That's right. Slip into Sydney Sweeney's DMs. You know what I'm saying? I think this is a nice moment where we get recognition from the Northern Hemisphere, where most people live in the world, down to our little corner in this wonderful game, our game, our sport.
Our game. Yeah.
And we get to say, who's having a crack? Is it Errol? Is it Errol Good? Beautiful left peg.
Last year, I recall a lot of the Swans players met Sydney Sweeney with their shirts off.
That's right.
Was there rig activity this year in the sheds?
Not that I saw, Pezza.
All I saw was Goulden with shirt on, presenting Sydney Sweeney with a shirt. But was there other? I'm asking the question everybody else is asking, but afraid to say.
Yeah.
Did any of the Swans players have their shirts off again?
Yeah. Not that I saw. And I was in those dressing rooms with my shirt off.
Is there any satisfaction as a Sydney native that this is the object of Sydney Sweeney's affection when it comes to footy? Like a choice of Sydney? There is?
It's just great branding because of the name.
The name.
Yeah.
There's this great story about Brian Lara's child, actually. With
right.
Yeah.
And he's lucky he wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Carlton are fined $75,000 and everyone has to have a psychologist now on their staff. So that's all sorted then. No further questions. Before we do NordVPN, should we speak to Catherine Murphy in a second and come out the other side? All right, just before then, this show is brought to you by NordVPN. Do I have to tell you about NordVPN? You've been listening to this show. You've been listening to every other show on the internet. And NordVPN has supported them, and now they're supporting us in turn. If you don't know about NordVPN or VPNs in general, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. How do you not know about it? NordVPN.com/
especially now.
The Circus. If you want a 30-day money-back guarantee, no risk, give it a try. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, they'll refund you. NordVPN.com/ The Circus. Threat protection, keeping your security and info encrypted. You can unlock region-lock content. Say less. NordVPN.com/ The Circus. Here's Catherine Murphy.
Okay, well, from time to time, our little venture identifies an opportunity to speak with someone we admire from afar, where we think we'd love to have this person on the show, and that's the case with our guest today. This person's travelled the world covering sport across all platforms, moved from Ireland to Australia in 2006. I'm sure she loves talking about that. You've seen her on Fox Sports. You've heard and seen her on the ABC for a long time. It's particularly satisfying to be joined by Catherine Murphy, alongside my dog Florimo, on the circus today, not least because she rejected our invitations about half a dozen times before finally agreeing to join us today.
It was a really tough rejection. I didn't want to do it, guys, but you chased me down. I played hard to get for a while, but here we are. We made it.
No, but officially and formally, because we're formal here, welcome to the circus.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of you too. It's an honour to be here.
Yeah, so you say that, I feel like, you're a very, you're a sophisticated media professional, and you're like, oh, it's just so great to come into the studio where this all happens, but you don't have to say that. I know you listen to like a billion podcasts and have to be across a lot of sports, so I don't know how to take that compliment.
Take it well, and I've never been called sophisticated before on a sport podcast, so I'm loving this. Oh, your dog's just walked away.
Well, that's a message. That's
just
a message.
Before he didn't even jump onto the couch for elbows, so yeah. But that was because it was awkward. Now, you're a staple of sports narration in Australia, Catherine. You've been here 20 years, and for that reason, I'm very loath to ask about coming to terms with Australian sports, because you've been here for 20 years and done it for longer than us. But I still want to know, because Australian football is a really weird game, and I just want to know how that works for you. I mean, we feel like I'm not a native to Aussie rules living in Melbourne, and I feel like I'm never going to know, even if I live here for another 70 years, how it actually works.
Well, when I first arrived, it was a major adjustment, because I actually thought I knew a lot about Aussie rules, which was really silly. because back home we had a highlights show once a week on our Irish language channel.
Oh,
you may not have known this.
that's awesome.
So I think it was Setanta Sports at the time. So I watched highlights every week. I closely followed the journey of Irish players who came out here, of Jim Steins. Ty Kennelly was playing at the time when I moved out here. And I did my thesis on the International Rules Series before moving out here. But when I arrived, it took one trip to the supermarket, flows back, to realize I knew nothing comparatively to your regular person at the supermarket. And it was a major adjustment.
But you did a thesis on the international rules.
Yes.
I mean, no, people can't say that walking around the streets.
It was pretty easy. Look, I wouldn't look up my thesis. On reflection, I did send it to a newspaper. It was published. And I always remember the newspaper saying, hey, can you send us the last draft of your thesis? And I was like, okay, why? They're like, just with the one without all the typos. And by this point, it was already in Dublin City University. And I'm like, wow, just full of typos.
I mean, can you see my thesis of the international rules series is that the Aussie guys wanted to fight all the time. Now, how did that differ from yours?
I have to be really careful here because I love Australia. I'm a dual resident. And I really want to go back home on holidays as well.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking very quickly about what I can say about the place I love living and the place I love going back to. But I will say, and the Irish boys will not mind me saying this, they won't because they've briefed me. They were not entirely blameless in that scenario. And the Australian players at the time who were involved, some of whom I'll just leave them nameless, but I have debriefed with them too, would say yes, they started it, but they may have been provoked. Some of the Irish players I spoke to may have agreed with that part of the thesis.
Okay.
It was a shame that it was cancelled. The major issue was the time zone, because while everyone here was at the MCG 3 beers in, watching the International Rules Series and not caring about that aspect of the game or finding it entertaining, there were kids in Irish schools watching it, and they've been given a few hours off to watch the International Rules Series, and maybe the teachers didn't love what they were seeing. And I feel that was a crucial part of how it went wrong.
So is it a big deal in Ireland?
It was a big deal back then. It was a massive deal.
I seem to recall there were huge crowds for the Irish games, and the MCG was quite sparse.
Massive. And it was a massive deal in the 90s. And again, because of all the Irish players that had come over here to play. But again, because of those confrontations, because of the biff, people liked it. It was what happened back then.
Yeah. I assumed that you were just in Australia on a working holiday visa living in St Kilda. And
I don't blame you for assuming
and
this.
you decided
and
to
you
stay
thought
in
I'd gone and done my grape picking or
That's
my
right.
farm
You picked
work.
some fruit for us. Thank you for that. And then you decided to stay in Australia and you decided to hide from the government by working with the ABC.
Look, my visa did run out at one point. That's a joke. Why would I make that joke? Why would I make that
I
joke?
like how many stakeholders you have to be careful of already in this. You're like Australia, Ireland, the government.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on. Just to clarify, always had a visa. Didn't do the...
Now, this question's about the Middle East.
I was assured you two would be on your best behaviour.
He's coming in and said you're picking fruit.
No, I'd like to know what the journey was to the news breakfast desk.
Yeah, so when I first moved here, I worked with Fox Footy Channel, would you believe? Did that for a while, then moved to Sydney, worked with Fox Sports News, ended up working with the AFL in the early days of the website, worked for Melbourne Victory as an MC and the Melbourne Rebels, and eventually made my way to ABC and to the news breakfast desk without the fruit picking, which I now regret. And you know what? That fruit picking would have really helped me in some of the interviews I've done when I've filled in on the desk.
No, let's think. I want this to keep running through.
Keep going. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, it's hot out here, isn't it? No, I mean, you've spoken to so many amazing athletes across all sports, really. But like, has there been one or two maybe that have like really impressed you? I mean, you've spoken to Federer after he won in 18 maybe out here, something like that. I mean, he would be an impressive guy, right?
He was amazing. I remember the first interview that I ever really, it was a major standout early on in my career. You know the way you have those turning points of, this is a hard career, a lot of people want to do it, and you have ups and downs in this job for sure. And early days, I really struggled with confidence. And I remember one day at work back in RTE, back home, someone was clearly ill because it shouldn't have been me doing this interview. I was sent to interview Ronnie O'Sullivan, the legendary snooker player.
Yeah.
I mean, what a legend. And I worked so hard. Like I stayed up so late the night before crafting questions, wondering how it would go. And he came in and he opened up on everything. And the interview went way longer than it should have. And he was so kind and generous with his time. And afterwards, I remember I was like, did that really happen? And I was eating one of those terrible sandwiches from the equivalent of a 7-Eleven, right? When there's a knock on the door and he came back in to say, I forgot to shake your hand and you did a really good job. And I remember thinking, maybe I can do this. And that was all out of the kindness of one person who took me seriously. This is before I was even allowed to do interviews at the channel. And I remember thinking, wow, maybe this is the job for me. And I still think of that moment now. When I got my news breakfast job, I thought of, how did I get here? And people like him are part of the reason, just like Roger Federer, who I was waiting for him for maybe an hour after he won his 20th Grand Slam at the Australian Open. It was a really hot night and there were all those bugs flying around. I was sweating so badly from nerves. Luckily, I was in white gear, I think something that it wasn't showing. And this guy has just won a 20th Grand Slam and he doesn't appear to be sweating. He's fine. I wasn't fine. And I was waiting for him thinking, you know the way you have those moments where I just want to go and work somewhere else. Like I don't want to feel this scared of what I'm supposed to be doing for a living. And a few people walked past. One person who said, you'll have to beep this out. Don't fuck it up. And I was like, no, I hadn't thought about that. I actually thought this would be the one time that I would never say that to someone. Yeah. But by the time Roger walked up, he has this lovely, kind aura about him that when he walked up, I knew that it was going to be okay. And not only that, I knew that he wanted to do a good interview. And I think that he is almost so empathetic and so successful that he understands that the interview is just as important for you, maybe way more so than it is for him. I mean, he'd just done ESPN and all the major channels, and I'm there waiting on the end of his 10th interview. And it was so a feeling of he's purposely being kind to me that towards the end of the interview, I remember saying, how do you not get nervous? Because I've watched the footage of you arriving into the garage this morning, because there are cameras everywhere at the Australian Open, and you just looked like you were going for a coffee or to get the paper. And he said, no, I was so nervous inside, but I had to put up a front for my team so my team would think I was confident and therefore I could be confident. And here's the point in the match that I got nervous again. And that was a huge moment. I thought, this guy gets nervous and it still works out. And I remember thinking after I got through that interview that it's actually okay to be nervous. It just means you care about your job. And that was a big moment for confidence. And I always remember those times that people were kind. You never forget.
I've experienced that as well, where you get these legends like, in your case, Ronnie O'Sullivan or Roger Federer, and you see that they have empathy and they have kindness and they have the ability to be open with you, and you think, oh, well, if legends can do that, what's the excuse for people at lower levels who often bring, ego or insecurity or rudeness or whatever, which leads me to my question of like, who are the worst guests that you can't name, but what's a proportion maybe that you get?
Do you know what? I've been really lucky, but I remember early in my career in AFL here, actually, it was quite brutal when I worked for the AFL website. You kind of went in, you just ask players in the change room, like, will you do my interview? And I was covering a couple of teams that lost a lot. And I was turned down, and I really remember it because no one says no to my interview requests. I'm joking. But it was, usually people are quite, okay, I'll talk to you. I always remembered a few of the guys that turned me down over and over. And I went on to find out that they were people that really struggled with shyness and public speaking and confidence.
Yes.
And I do look back with a little bit of guilt almost that at the time I looked at those guys and I thought, but you were so big and strong and confident, and almost like the male stereotype that we're getting better, I think, these days at knowing that that just isn't always the case. And I had a talk to one player about it years later about why he didn't do the interviews. And he talked to me about, off the record, about, what a rough time he had with that. And I remember thinking, I wish I had known back then what I knew now. And so now when someone says no, I always think, are they okay? Like, is there something else going on with them? And I think guys are under pressure to put on this really strong front. And often you can interpret ego as someone who might be struggling or really shy, because we think, how could this successful athlete be struggling or shy? And we're learning more and more that that's often the case, that they can be.
I want to ask you about your experience of going to some of these festival Coachella style events like the F1 and the Oz Open, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, I don't really care too much about either one of those sports, but when I go to like both of those events, I've been to both of them, they are amazing. Like, because I'm a semi-interested fan, right? And so if you go to the tennis and there's pop-ups everywhere and there's a DJ set, and the F1's a very similar thing. It's fun, right? I sort of actually bemoan there's too many people there to experience all of it. But do you think that people that really love the sport, like rev heads and massive tennis fans, they actually bemoan the festivalization of their events, like their one thing they get to go to in their country a year?
I love it. And I'm often that person that, especially at the tennis, I'm not going to the festivals or the concerts at the tennis, or I'm just kind of walking past those bars that are absolutely packed and heading off to work. I love it. I love what Melbourne does for sport, because it just means that more people get dragged into the orbit of sport, and people who end up on site one day will walk past one of those back courts and they'll get to see a superstar, and that's the access you get at the Australian Open, and they'll be drawn in. And I love how the Australian Open particularly just takes over the city. My favourite day of the year, one of my favourite days, is in January, and I see that first Australian Open branded car with the tinted windows drive down the street, and I'm like, oh my God, they're here. And it's usually a week before the main draw starts, and they're in town and they're around. And Melbourne is, honestly, people who grew up here don't know what Melbourne is. When I first arrived here,
ain't that the truth?
And I saw the Amy Park wasn't built, but right now, there's the MCG right next to Melbourne Park and Rod Laver Arena, and now Amy Park's there, and it is Disneyland for sports fans. And the more that encroaches on the city, the happier I'll be. Look, I find some of it strange when you go to the Grand Prix, and there are whole aspects of it that you get told about by your friends afterwards. Some huge activation that everyone went to, and you're like, really? I didn't. I didn't see that, but I love how Melbourne does it.
Rugby union.
Yeah.
People in Australia just started to see a flicker of life in the Australian men's team in the Wallabies last year. A couple of good results-ish results against the British and Irish Lions before the season kind of fell away. The World Cup is here next year. I know you're very big on your rugby. Ireland's out here this year, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're taking on the Wallabies in July.
Yes.
And Eddie Jones is Japan. And Eddie's already trying to take on Ireland. It's going to be a busy July.
Yeah.
Well, Eddie likes to take on multiple things at the same time, but
that was just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's
misunderstanding.
I was there.
Yeah. What is the state of the nation when it comes to rugby union in Australia as you see it at the moment? Is there hope?
So rugby is so resilient. Even I was shocked at the level of crowds and enthusiasm around the British and Irish Lions tour. Now, when I say shocked, I don't mean that. A Lions tour is always going to be amazing because of the travelling supporters. But that test at the MCG is one of the best sporting events I've ever been to in my entire life. And you know what made me really happy? I was getting texts from rugby players and coaches in Ireland and the UK saying, how good is the MCG? I want to play there one day. This was such a great showcase for, again, Melbourne as a sporting town. And the way fans supported the Wallabies during that series was just so uplifting. Rugby Australia have made a profit again. That is huge. They're paying off debts. Yes, they have a court case looming. We won't get into that with Victorian rugby. But there's a timeline on all of this. So a home World Cup next year. I think Australia does the best sports events in the world. People who love sport know that. People will travel here for that. It will be one of the best events as a sports lover across any sport that we'll get to attend and I'll be lucky enough to cover. I do have concerns after that because right now we see rugby league players. They are leaving the code so they can play union at a home World Cup because it is so special. It will boost the bank account again. But how that money is used afterwards is so important because Australia's been here before. I think Australian rugby fans are really resilient for a group of people that have high expectations. Like I grew up, we went to the rugby, hail, rain, snow. Oh, we weren't there going, I want to see expansive, entertaining rugby. I was like, we just want to beat people in the Six Nations. I was happy with 9-6 v England in the rain at Lansdowne Road. So there are really high expectations here because the market's so crowded. And when you look at what the AFL is doing, not just the success of the elite competition and Auskick, but the media machine behind it, pushing it out there. If you look at Peter Volandes, what he's doing for rugby league, a machine in himself, that's huge. They are really making huge strides. Like the rugby league grand final, outrating the AFL grand final last year. I mean, rugby union has got to get in the game. They've got to start competing with that. And they are two very difficult, highly successful machines that they need to compete with.
It does feel like there's a dormant fan base there. I mean, I think the problem is it starts with New Zealand being amazing and Australia.
Don't get me started.
Australia lose most of their games every winter. That does hurt. Now, Ireland are good. Ireland second in the Six Nations this year.
Yeah.
But I think they're like ranked second or third overall in the world, and Australia is somewhere near 10th above Fiji. But does that matter unless, if we beat Hong Kong in Perth in that first game of the World Cup, are we going to start seeing Slim Dusty albums being dusted off? You know what I mean? Are there going to be gold scarves again, walking around the streets of Australia? Do we just need a win?
Yeah, definitely need a win in that opener. You brought up New Zealand and I have major issues with New Zealand. And I want to apologise to all our News Breakfast viewers because I do sledge New Zealand a lot, but it comes from a place of probably bitterness, jealousy. New Zealand are actually at the heart of a lot of my life's problems as someone who reports on rugby. So I stopped counting after it became clear that not only were there 21-year-olds out in the community having their 21st birthdays and Australia hadn't won a Bledisloe. That was difficult.
Yeah.
But then when it got to the point where 21-year-olds had been conceived and they'd had their parties, I had to stop counting. I mean, when we're at the point that rugby fans' mummies and daddies got together, had a 21st birthday and Australia hasn't won the Bledisloe, not to mention, and this is painful to bring up, but I kind of feel like I'm in therapy sitting over here in the couch and you two are just looking at me like saying, spill it all. New Zealand's win over Ireland in the World Cup quarterfinal was the most disappointed I think I've ever been as a sports fan, full stop. I just covered that World Cup in France. That was the World Cup where Australia didn't make it out of the pool stages. Eddie Jones had a few Zoom calls during that tournament. I was sitting in, I remember one night really clearly where it wasn't going well for Australia. And I had this sense of doom about Ireland are going to be facing the All Blacks and things were looking bad. And here's a fun fact. Did you know you can be in France, but champagne doesn't exist when you're an Irish girl covering the Wallabies? Because there is no winning. Yeah. And I remember sitting with the other journalists pretty much in a gutter because we used to go to this bar after matches called the Six Nations and sitting on the pavement really in a bit of a gutter, drinking Pinot Noir out of plastic pint glasses.
Nice.
That's where the Australian media contingent were at. And that wasn't even as low as it got for me. It was that All Blacks win over Ireland in the quarterfinal was still to come. I feel better now that I've got all of that out.
Where does rugby sit in the Irish sports? You obviously got hurling and football and Gaelic football and rugby, I guess golf as well and athletics and that kind of stuff. But where does rugby fit into?
This is a really good question because it's not the number one sport. So you have the Gaelic football, you have hurling, you have football, as in soccer, ahead of rugby. So you actually don't need to be the number one sport to be incredibly successful and fill stadia. You just need to have a really great governance plan to ensure that you stay in the headlines. You need success as well, of course. And there's been a lot of Australians that have been a massive part of why Ireland has been so successful. So this is what I find really hard to look at with Australian rugby as it has fallen away is, yes, AFL and rugby league is so dominant, but there's place for everyone if the sport is successful. Amazingly in Europe, in the women's Six Nations, I think it was more than 60,000 fans attended an England game at Twickenham. And when that England bus pulled up, it didn't matter whether there were men or women on the bus. It just looked like a Six Nations game. And there is so much success happening in rugby. It's possible. It's still a great game. And we see what happens with wins, but it's broader than that. There will have to be a broader plan to make sure it can be successful after a home World Cup.
Let's talk media landscape.
Yeah.
You've worked at Fox, ABC. You work with to help Zach Toohey with his book, The Irish Experiment. So you've written books as well.
Yeah, just the one. As I told Zach, one and done. It was a great experience. It was brilliant.
But now that you've traversed these paths, does that mean you're now obligated to pave a path to start your own podcast, Carl Stefanovic style, preferably with an Akubra on, preaching to a certain segment of Australians?
Can you see me wearing an Akubra and starting a podcast?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel obligated right now. It's quite busy, but I could look into the Akubra wearing.
Yes.
I do own one.
Yes.
Perhaps I should have worn it today.
Yes.
That would have been good.
Maybe next time.
I noticed, Catherine, and it was an interview with you a few years ago on The Age, and the opening paragraph said, ABC sports broadcaster Catherine Murphy jokes that she's a girl addicted to sport and sometimes wonders if, quote, if I have any personality left, I watch so much sport. Now, that's prevalent and relevant to a lot of people listening to this show.
Yeah.
What does too much sport do to one's personality?
Oh, it's hard to say. Like, you guys are okay because you can communicate with me, but sometimes I do find, like, I grew up watching a lot of sport, and we have times where we have like really famous actors on our show and everyone will say, oh, I remember watching that film growing up. And I don't know what my parents were doing. They're great, John and Lily, but they had me watching like sport and news the entire time. So I definitely think it takes over your social life.
Yeah.
I think that it means you're out there looking for like-minded people who also want to talk about sport all the time. My friends are understanding. I do have one group of friends who are not into sport at all, and they will never talk about it, and they help me develop in other areas.
Social skills.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as needing to develop in those areas? A lot of people. No, I'm asking. There's a lot of people listening to this carefully, going, I am probably a one-dimensional person who should know about other things like French literature and acting.
Oh wow!
It's no, but I mean this is the view. Like, do you think that like you should receive that help, or are you happy to accept yourself for who you are as just a sports news person?
I do love, as you say, I love news and I love politics as well. And I do watch too much sport. But you know what? You could be watching a lot worse things. I've never watched maths. Apologies to all the contestants. I heard today in a team meeting at work that they've been 8 seasons of maths. Have you two watched it?
No, I thought it was just a bad.
No, I'm behind the times, unfortunately.
Okay.
Well, this is a bad way of pronouncing maths, like mathematics.
Speech impediment, yeah.
But yeah, so sports just reality TV. I like to think of it that way, that it's our kind of reality TV. Yeah, and we're just missing out on maths.
Do you ever feel judged by friends for being like a sports, someone who only really knows about sport? I'm just projecting here, by the way, but yeah.
Sometimes I judge them for not knowing about sport. No, it's really funny. I've got a good story. One of my best friends, and I love her, she's the best. Anne-Marie, she lives in Dublin, and we were going out she was visiting, she wanted to go to Opera Bar in Sydney. And I was like, sure, it's really crowded on a Friday, but we'll give it a go. She's like, I'll find us a table. So she went ahead of me to Opera Bar, and she rings me and says, you're not going to believe it. These lovely guys have let me sit right next to them at their table at Opera Bar. And I said, that's great. So I'll go and get the drinks. You don't leave the seat. I'll get the drinks. So very strategic. Thank you. I go get the drinks and I walk to the table. And guess who has let her sit next to her? I can't even get the words out.
Tucker
She
Carlson.
she doesn't even recognize him. Guess what? It's Usain Bolt. She sat next to Usain Bolt and said, is it okay if my friend joins us? Anne-Marie, I don't think I've told this story. And so he realizes that I recognize him. I mean, who wouldn't other than
Have you spoken to him before?
Anne-Marie?
Have you ever interviewed him or anything?
I
ever
hadn't
come across
interviewed him, no.
Okay.
So I'm walking up to the table with the glass in my hand and I just go, oh. And I didn't want to say anything. And Anne-Marie's like, this is my new friend. She hasn't even bothered to ask his name. Might have given her a little hint, maybe not. Yeah. So I sit down with my friend and Usain Bolt. And I'm like, hey. And he's just like kind of dancing. He's got moves. So I'm like trying to do moves with Usain Bolt. And I'm like, suddenly everyone starts to realize it's him. So they're gathering on the top level of Opera Bar to take photos, to get around him. And my friend's like, what's going on? And he's like, I have to go now. I'm like, you do, Usain Bolt. So yeah, my friend I had to tell her. So there are advantages and disadvantages too. But yeah, my friend Anne-Marie is the best, just not quite up on all of the sport.
I like that Usain Bolt goes to town. He's like, I'm just going to have a quiet night incognito. I'm going to go to Opera Bar in Sydney.
Friday night.
I know, and he
Friday
really
night,
was.
with the suits.
He was trying. He was in the
trying to get
corner.
Ryan's back.
He was trying to keep
Ryan's
it
back,
real low key till he met Anne-Marie. Yeah.
Irish stuff. Roy Keane, Mick McCarthy, Saipan.
Oh, no
Where do
way.
you sit?
Oh, wow. Stop it.
Keno, where are we at?
Okay. I can't believe it. I think it's safe to talk about this now.
I think so.
I think we're at that point. I remember at the time that was so all-consuming that I heard my mum and dad discuss it and disagree on it. I don't know that my mum was that into football until she was talking about McCarthy and Keane. Look, I saw Roy the day he left for that Saipan, whatever it was, training experience that he didn't think was good enough. And he said the pitches were like car parks. Remember that? I don't know, were there footballs missing? We were at Dublin Airport. I was extremely junior, helping a camera up, probably getting tea for people or whatever I was doing. And Roy walked past and I was like, hey, Roy. And he's like, hey. Like he looked stressed even before he left for Saipan. And then when all of that kicked off, I'm going to say Roy. Sorry, Mick. I'm going to say Roy. I think that standards are so important. I'm all about standards. And I remember even at the time watching his interview thinking, I get it. It was tough for anyone to walk away from a World Cup, but that was huge.
Because it was a question beyond the merits of like whether he should stay with the team for the World Cup. It became a question about like Irish football, right? And standards and like what you're going to walk past or what you're going to accept. And that was part of his reasoning, right? It was just like, I can't put up with this mediocrity anymore. Until we fix that, I'm not involved.
And you've got to admire someone that instead of just thinking it's a World Cup, I've just got to go along with this, I need it on my CV, to be that confident in yourself that you don't want to walk past what he was saying. And I loved that about him. I love his career now as a commentator. I think he is hilarious. He's been so successful, so entertaining. Yeah, just the best. That's the most controversial thing I've ever been asked. Thank you.
What a... Catherine Murphy, thanks so much for coming in. I hope that was, endurable.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much to Catherine for her time. Now, I want to talk football. Arsenal look like they're now favourites to win the Premier League. They beat Atletico Madrid this morning to secure their place in the Champions League final. PSG Bayern will play tonight to see who will join them. And now I am scared that Arsenal will win the league and the Champions League. That's the worst possible result if anyone has an internet connection. It's awful. Couple that with Tottenham winning 2 games in a row. They're now out of the relegation zone. None of this is good for me.
Yes, it's a bad day or couple of days for Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
For the great English pastime.
Yeah.
But that's just how it goes.
Yeah. I was watching the highlights this morning of Arsenal beating Atletico, and I saw the score first, and I was like, well, fair fucks. If they're the best team, then so be it. And then I watched it, and I was like, this fucking sucks. I fucking hate this. I hate it. And that's a reflection on me. It is. But I don't care. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't care.
That reaction's a win for Arsenal as well. You got to think about that in online wars, because there are attempts now to go like, oh, they're winning, but they're not doing it in a way that we like. There's no way. Like if you want the Schadenfreude result, you're never going to give it fully to the opposition team. This is how it works. So if you're sort of going, I fucking hate it, then they win and... But that is what's happened. So at least you're being honest. At least you're being honest with that.
Yeah. Now to offset that, Hearts beat Rangers in the William Hill.
Yep.
League.
In the William Hill. That's what the punters have asked for.
That's what they call it. They beat Rangers 2-1. Came from a goal behind, 2 goals in the second half. They're now 3 points clear of Celtic with 3 to play. Their last game of the season is at Celtic. I think they play Motherwell and is it Hibs they might play? Forget. No, someone else. So basically, it could come down to the last game of the season where Celtic might need a significant goal difference to turn it around. But it's that is a genuine good feel story, because if you understand like the disparity in like the amount of money that Rangers and Celtic make compared to everyone else in the Scottish League. It is extraordinary. People have compared it to Leicester City's win in 2016, as we've in the show a couple of times. But you can just watch the highlights if you like for 6 minutes, and it's fucking Scottish football, red hot. Sound is amazing. It's an incredible feel good story. And if you're a neutral, get behind Hearts, I say.
Cooper writes in with an early boys, actually, entitled No Love for Our Aussie Boys. Boys, great to hear you talking about the Scottish Premiership title race, but the fact you have failed to mention our Aussie boys in Cammy Devlin and Caleb Nieuwenhof is shocking. Cammy Devlin looks to be a certainty in the Socceroos side for the upcoming World Cup. I think you owe it to him and this nation of ours and give the boy his flower. Yours in Australian football, Nonseri. Oh, registered.
Sweet.
Sure.
I like
Look
it.
forward to learning he's in the Socceroos team.
Yeah, that's right. Now, golf. I've been following this story for the last couple of weeks, but Saudi or the PIF have cut ties with Live Golf. A sad day for petrol heads.
So Liv's still dead based on the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. I mean, so it's of course not officially dead. They're just looking for new investors. But if the richest fund in the entire world can't fund it, who will? Who will? John Rahm has cut a deal with the DP World Tour. He has to pay £2.5 million in fines. Worth noting, he was signed for somewhere between $300 and $600 million US 3 years ago. So he's got to pay £2.5 million in fines, but he was signed for between $300 and $600 million USD 3 years ago. Australian Cameron Smith signed for between 100 and 140 mil USD. He's also won 50 million in lift tournaments. Seems to have zero motivation to do anything. But James Sutherland, CEO of GA, it's Golf Australia, says that Smith is too young to retire. And I, for one, disagree. If you've made essentially $200 million US on golf, I reckon you can retire whenever you like.
It's got a boxing one here. Here goes.
Okay.
Nikita Tszyu and Oscar Diaz fighting at some point this week, next week. Oscar Diaz 16-0 and just got this tweet from Brett Sprigg. If you're one of those people that complains modern athletes aren't unique enough, Nikita Tszyu might be the guy for you. Wife's name is also Nikita. Daughter's name is Curiosity. He eats raw meat, his wife's placenta, and breast milk. Famous boxing family, 11 wins, 9 knockouts, 0 losses. And that sounds really trivial, but I'm interested now.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about AFL, what's on the menu? You know, and the Tszyu family's having some placenta.
I think he's burnt his whole family, metaphorically,
Right.
and he looks like how you'd hope a boxer looked, a live boxer looked. He looks mad, and so that's enough for me. He eats his wife's placenta. He looks mad. He's Australian. That's it. So just promoting that fight.
Aussies Tarly Gill and Dean Hewitt have won gold at the World Championships. That's in the curling. They missed out on qualifying for the Milan Winter Olympics. Australia don't even have curling practice facilities. Dean Hewitt thanked the Aussies for all the support back home. We couldn't have done it without you. And for that, I say to Dean, you're welcome. You're welcome for that support. Australia don't even have curling facilities. Gold in the World Championships. Thank you very much. Now, speaking of Olympics and games generally speaking, the enhanced games are coming to Las Vegas in 3 weeks. May 21 to 24 in Nevada, 50 athletes, swimming, track, weightlifting, and strongman. James Magnuson is the only Aussie, and we wish him well. And I think the enhanced games is a touching tribute to, well, it's not a tribute so much as it just goes to show what happens when you take away the podcasting equipment from psychopaths and you put it in the hands of billionaires who should be having these kind of conversations in kitchens at 5 a.m. whilst the kick-on bird sings its famous song. Because we're getting into like what would happen if we just let the drugs run free, and we're about to find out in Nevada in a couple of weeks' time. And I say to that, I'll be watching.
Notwithstanding the fact that the most important part of this is what the podcasters say. I think we established that earlier.
Yes.
Do you hold any sensibility as an Australian that even though these games are by definition tainted, you still expect the Australian to win? I mean, I don't endorse these games in any way. I think it's a travesty and a disgrace. I still want Magnuson to win gold.
Yeah, I don't care if it's a science experiment with freaks. I don't care. I want gold. I settle for no less. I want world records, which will not count for anything because it'll be illegal, and I want gold.
I want Australian excellence. I want Australian excellence relative to other nations, whether you're taking drugs or not. Agreed.
Boys Actually is brought to you by Smith Optics Australia. Use the code FILTHY for 25% off your order at smithopticsaustralia.com.au. Now, last week we spoke about the Artemis crew, the Artemis 2's crew, all flicking on the Smiths after they landed safely back on Earth's shores. And to you, I say, dear punter, if you want to use the code FILTHY for 25% off your order at smithopticsaustralia.com.au, if you feel like you want to go to the moon, metaphorically, literally, in whatever ways you want that to mean, then I need you to chuck on a pair of Smiths and take yourself to the fucking moon. I've been looking at the moon recently. We've had a couple of big moons down here recently, Pezza.
Yep.
And I've got to say, in recent times, a little sniff from Chuck. I've got to say, in recent
I live
times,
for that sniff.
you know, when you think about what's happened, you know, with the Artemis crew chucking on the Smiths, I've been looking at the moon thinking, you know what, I will be getting some Smiths and I'll be taking myself to the moon. It's amazing. And also it's fake. We know that for a start.
The moon?
Yeah, the moon is fake.
Yeah. Eddie Hearn style to the moon. He'd have Smiths. What a wonderful company, you know. King's Common Touch, Artemis 2's podcasters.
Prescription sunglasses, prescription frames, regular sunglasses. They've got it all. Field sports, snow, lifestyle, bike, performance eyewear. I mean, if you want to go to the moon, you need performance eyewear. You need a few other things. Don't just try and go to the moon with sunglasses, please, for the love of God.
Yep.
We're going to get to an Icarus situation. He went to a different planet. But use the code FILTHY.
We're in the rage bait era of boys, actually.
FILTHY at smithopticsaustralia.com.au. And for 25% off, you can take yourself to the fucking moon.
First one comes in. It's entitled, You've Done It Now, Boys. By Rich.
Already funny.
Dear Pez and Higo, brackets S close brackets.
Okay.
Huge fan of your work. However, your conversation about running last week literally stopped me mid-stride. And I couldn't stand idly by while such misinformation and undervaluation was afoot. There's two things you need to understand about running. The first is that any old person can lace up and run 21 miles, the distance you erroneously attributed to the marathon, brackets, timestamp 1:42:10. However, what really sorts the champs from the champion is the final 5 miles, making up the 26 miles and 385 yards. The second thing, which I'm sure you're now quickly realising, is that runners, brackets the proper ones, not the Gen Zers who use run clubs as a swingers club, are just about the most autistic sports people out there. We make F1 nonces look like well-rounded individuals. We show up at training each week, run in circles for a predetermined time at a predetermined pace, looking only at the back of each other's heads and the numbers on our watches. At the end, we may chat to 1 to 2 others strictly sticking to running times. Therefore, I can only begin to imagine the siege this inbox must be under from runners around the world unable to help themselves in the face of such ignorance. The kindest explanation for which is that you are rage baiting us. For what it's worth, Yomif Kajelcha, who, the bloke who came second, also runs in Adidas, putting them truly on the top step at the moment. Yours in numbers, Rich. Now, I did look at that timestamp. Someone else can do this if they like, but I believe this is mistaken. You mentioned 20 or 21 miles, but you're referring to the length of the distance of an e-bike in London. So I think this is erroneous.
I don't care.
Matt writes in, it's entitled Sydney Olympic Park Hotels.
Oh, damn it.
Boys, I took great interest in your chat on 29 April 2026 episode regarding the West Tigers' recent victory at Leichhardt Oval. As a lifelong Tigers fan, it's enjoyable to hear your esteemed sporting analysts lauding the unique atmosphere at the Eighth Wonder and agree entirely with the idea that this presents a superior television product for consumers of sport. I was disappointed, however, to hear Higgos refer to his struggles to find a beer at the, quote, Sofitel in Sydney Olympic Park, brackets. Whilst this is the official suburb name of the Olympic Stadium, currently known as Accor Stadium, I feel like this correction from it being referred to as Homebush can slide. I believe the venue he was referring to was the Novotel Sydney Olympic Park, which hosts the brewery, bar and kitchen, commonly activated for major events in the precinct. The other hotel in the vicinity is the Pullman Hotel. While these are all stablemates of the Sofitel brand within the Accor parent company, I felt the need to correct this error and prevent any other listeners potentially attending an event in Sydney Olympic Park and similarly struggling to find said beer due to the non-existence of the hotel yours in Pedantry.
Yeah, this is one I've actually thought about during the week where I obviously forget everything that's being said on this show immediately after we stop recording, but I'm pretty sure that I said Sofitel and I was like, it's not, it's Novotel. I've thought about it most days during the week, so fair play.
John says, hey, that bloke that asked you to, quote, unreservedly apologise to Ian, ... cocksucker, no other word needed. Regards, John. Liam writes in, audience actually. Hey, boys, audience actually here. As a lifelong member of the Red V, this really hurt me. On the boys last week, it had an okay effort on trying the boys actually Higgos vis-a-vis Anzac Day Roosters Dragons fixtures. The audience member used a small sample size and failed to mention the close scores from 2002 to 2018, which considerably proved this audience member very wrong and my dad Higgos right. From the 16 games between these years, 9 have been within 12 points and considered a close game as seen below. Goes through 02, 03, 04. Every time there's a score between 02 and 17, and it's like close. Also, to back up my Dragons, out of the 25 games played between the two on Anzac Day, Roosters have won 13 to Dragons 12. Hence, disregarding this nonsensical idea that Roosters dominate due to his audience member forgetting history. Always going to go. Anyways, going to go cry until we win again. Cheers. Pay fuck Pig Liam.
It's one for the good guys there. And also shows that person was probably 19 that wrote in originally.
Well, there's another one in defense of the Dragons and the boys. I won't go through it all, but basically saying the same point. They've been pretty close over the longer form of the journey. Also, they love the Dragons as well and hated hearing it. Sorry.
But what about before 2002?
Yeah, Dragons fans starved of success. Well, Anzac Day didn't exist before then. Howard was just getting into, just getting things going vis-a-vis all that stuff. So, vis-a-vis all that stuff. Now, this is, this is from Anonymous entitled Binary Planet System. Boys, actually, from a strictly astrophysical standpoint, you are annoyingly on firmer ground than most people realise when calling the moon a planet. The conventional classification hinges on the International Astronomical Union criteria, which define a planet as a body that 1 orbits the sun, 2 is in hydrostatic equilibrium, brackets, i.e. roughly spherical, 3 has cleared its orbital neighbourhood. The moon obviously has fails criterion 1 in isolation as it orbits. That really keeps on going. In other words, you're technically not right, but you're also not wrong in a way that would survive a pedantic astrophysics pub argument, which frankly is the only standard that matters. Carry on. And then Junior Burger writes, "G'day again, boys. What a thrill to not only have my boys actually debut read out and savagely handled by Higgos, but then also to get a reprisal the following week, including a drive-by from Mark, armed with degrees in physics and astronomy, a drive-by that I feel warrants a retort. Mark noted that because I mentioned astrology and horoscopes, I am, quote, disqualified from scientific chat. The joke I was trying to make was explicitly saying I'm not an expert and then immediately and intentionally referencing the wrong discipline. That was the bit. I accept that in needing to explain the joke, it probably didn't leap off the page quite as intended. But the odds that an avid horoscope reader would be a regular circus listener seem, well, astronomical. Mark went on to explain that technically the moon does orbit the sun as part of the Earth-Moon system, and therefore one might call it a planet. By that logic, anything gravitationally bound to Earth while moving through space becomes a planet, which means I suppose that Little St. James ought to be renamed Epstein's Planet. And anything that Suryavanshi may launch into the upper atmosphere over the next several weeks are all planets now. Congratulations to them. From Earth, Junior Burger."
So does that mean the International Space Station would therefore be?
Well, I guess according to the logic of if you're orbiting, just everything is a planet then.
Heads on Mars.
Last one here. It's entitled He's White by Noah.
This will be good.
There's a question mark in capitals. He's white? Boys, forgive me for this is needlessly long. I have no friends and the touch of a woman has become a hopeless pursuit. I therefore write in to correct 2 grown men about things that don't matter on a podcast about sport. Everything 10-year-old me had hoped for. I am pleased to share that I enjoyed last week's episode of The Circus, Free Bunts with Rule. Question mark, Rule? A great chat it may have been, but that unfortunately does not preclude the episode from the usual smattering of errors, oversights, and simple inability to remember somebody's name. It is evident that you are trying your best at points. But I'm sworn to my correctional duties. At your earliest convenience, please provide reasons or apologies for the below. 149.20. When discussing Higgos' hypothetical participation in the NBA, Higgos himself makes a comment in response to coaches not knowing who he was because I gasp. Are the words I hear next correct? Is this real life or is this just fantasy? Quote, he's white. My heart skips a beat. This is it. This is my chance to write in. I can hardly contain my excitement. Once I regain my bearings, I ask myself, can white players not play in the NBA? Surely they can. Surely, as Woody Harrelson so clearly showed back in the 90s, white men can jump. Larry Bird not ring any bells for old Papa Higgos over there. In fact, the very team that started Higgos' comments on the NBA, the LA Lakers, have 2 cold-ass white boys in Luka Doncic, careful with your pronunciation here, Pez, and Austin Reeves. I think you're safe on this one, along with a plethora of lukewarm ones. Quick search suggests that white NBA player representation has dropped from near 100% in the early 1950s. It still remains a solid 17 to 19% in the 2020s. If we call 17 to 19% a 1 in 5, and we shall, and we'll hear from the numbers auditors next week, that means the starting lineup of each NBA side would include one white person. Surely this level of commonality would preclude a coach from exclaiming he's white when Higos suits up. To understand if Higos was being flippant or casually reverse racist, yes, I hope he also offers to consider his position vis-a-vis Ross the boss. I sought advice from the recently stood down Will Horton KC. He provided me the following statement. Quote, I observe that podcasting is a hard game. It is highly competitive, particularly at its higher levels. It is commonplace that podcasters can employ language from time to time which is racist, sexist, or homophobic whilst in the studio. Call it a 1-1 draw, shall we? The hour grows late, so we shall conclude. By the way, the Italian bloke that won it was Marcel Jacobs, 158.11. He's glad he devoted his entire life to a 10-second long event to reach the pinnacle of his sport and be known as that Italian bloke. Best, Benito Mussolini, that other Italian bloke.
That's the show this week. Thank you to Catherine Murphy. Thank you for tuning into the circus this week, and we'll be back again next week. Right here. Goodbye.